Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Arita podcast. I'm very pleased to have Drew Marconi from Intelligems. I am Aaron Schwartz, one of the co-founders of Arita. We build AI segmentation for a bunch of Klaviyo brands, Caraway, True Classic, Rem Beauty, you name it. But today we are talking about Intelligems and Drew's background and his story. He may hint to a couple things that they do with Klaviyo or people he knows at Klaviyo. So we'll see if we get there. But Drew, let me be quiet. I'd love for you to give a proper intro to yourself, how you got where you are, a little bit about Intelligems, and I'll follow up with about 200 questions.
Great. Yeah. Lightning round just for an hour.
Favorite
Thanks for having
color?
me.
Favorite?
Blue.
What's your middle name? All right, let's go.
Yeah. So I'm Drew. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO at Intelligems. We do testing and personalization for brands like True Classic and Caraway and a bunch of others. So we call it like an intelligent commerce platform. Our goal is you drive traffic to your site, you spend good money on that. How do we maximize the profit that you get from them? And so that's a lot of experimentation and personalization on pricing, offers, shipping, UX, checkout, kind of anything on the site. We're going to help you dial in the most profitable option. So that's what we do. Focused on D2C and brands on Shopify. My background to get here was kind of funny and winding. I started my career in consulting, McKinsey. I did no pricing work there. Just kind of then I landed at a ride-sharing company here in New York called Via Transportation, which went public last year, kind of now sells ride-sharing software and transit tech to cities, but we were running a huge consumer ride-share business. And I joined the growth team. My job was like get people to take more rides. So use discounts, use offers, do a lot of segmentation on our list. Who's dormant, who's active, who's a commuter. And I got paired up with this guy, Adam, who this is 2017. He's now my co-founder. And they're like, hey, can you guys help figure out pricing? Like we've been doing flat pricing to grow the network. It's time to start making money. How do we become more dynamic like Uber and Lyft? So we spent 4 years building out a whole dynamic and algorithmic pricing and offer system. COVID hit. No one wants to share rides. We were like, okay, we got to go figure out another place to do dynamic pricing. And we had a brief foray into gaming, thinking that would be a good spot to apply the skills. Long story, I'll make short, did not work. And we had a couple coworkers who had left and started their own brands on Shopify. And we were like, how do you guys price? How do you guys go get data on elasticity and which offers to give? And they're like, what are you talking about? We just pulled a number out of a hat, did cost plus, and it hasn't changed in 5 years. And so that was really the origin back in 2021. And the platform's obviously evolved a lot since then, but it's like, hey, let's take all these skills we learned in high volume consumer rideshare and try to make that accessible for brands selling stuff online.
I'm just going to dive right in. I think you probably saw my head down. I was writing out a bunch of questions that are popping up for me, which I love that we get to prep for these, and I will completely disregard all of our prep work.
I'd be the same way.
Just pull at the thread. So I actually want to start with the pricing piece particularly, because you also jumped into personalization. Can you share a little bit about like what the problem, like discreetly you were solving on day one, and how much confidence you had on where the company was going, or if this has just kind of been like a journey where a customer asks for something and you do more and more and more? Like what's different between early days and today?
Yeah, it always makes sense in retrospect, but I would not say we had a clear version of where we'd get. What was clear to us was applying data to pricing problems can be very powerful. Like we saw that firsthand, understanding what was low elasticity, products, customers, where we could take price, increase margin with the least impact on growth. And then what was highest elasticity, like which segments would respond to discounts, where we could basically get more revenue and more growth relatively cheaply in terms of margin investment. Like that was kind of the whole game. What levers do we have? How do we get smarter about, this dictionary of segments and levers? And we massively saw that improve profitability while maintaining growth. And so, that was the first problem, was you have no data on pricing as a brand. You are doing cost plus. Every textbook, business school book, case study for the last 40 years has said cost plus is not the right way to do it. You need value-based pricing. Different customers have different willingness to pay. Different products have different willingness to pay. And that's easier said than done. So we were just laser focused on like, let's give you better pricing data. And we thought back in 2021, this was going to be totally algorithmic. We give you like a Mad Libs and you're like, take this product and maximize this metric with a guardrail of conversion not below X and sell through of this inventory by date Y. And we showed that to people and they're like, no. Like, can you just help me like know if I should charge $30 or $40 for this? And that was kind of a fateful piece of feedback. And we said, yeah, we can. We ran a lot of tests at VIA, and that's a great way to get elasticity data. We'll do it. And we can take different price points, run a clean test. Brands loved that it left them in control. They got the data they wanted. And so that was really the focus for the first year. And as you answer those questions, you realize that there are others that need to be asked. Some we asked and some the brands asked. But like the whole point of that was we were going to maximize the profit per visitor from the site. And if you go log into log on to any e-commerce website, there's probably a dozen factors on that site that are price or price adjacent. Like, is there a strike through? Are we offering a welcome offer? Is there a subscription? Are there volume discounts? Is there a gift with purchase? How are we ordering products and like showing you different sizes in the buy box? The shipping threshold and shipping rate ultimately are part of that price. So we realize, oh, we're kind of like solving for one piece of the puzzle. But even if we call this pricing with capital P, there's like a bunch of other levers that need to be controlled if we're going to solve this problem of maximizing the profit from these visitors. And so that is where the snowball started to happen. It was like, well, we can control more price. Let's be able to test shipping. Now your offers need to be reconfigured. Let's go test that. Hey, different segments are showing different preferences for offers. We need to get into personalization. And, underlying all of that is the content and the UX and how you talk about your products. Like the website is a seller, it's doing sales. And we resisted testing the content and the experience for a long time. And ultimately enough people asked and the tool market changed. And we're like, okay, yeah, we can also, this is part of the picture of how you maximize expected profit. Let's add it. And so it's been a very like fluid goal, all under maximize profit per visitor. And it's still fluid today, like AI, I'm sure you guys are post AI in your formation, but for us, we were formed before ChatGPT. So it's like, all right, that gives us new tools to maximize profit per visitor. What else is possible to do that, like beyond, the testing we've been doing for years?
There's so much there, obviously, but you kind of started with the idea of, cool, let's go figure out the right price. But maybe a quick aside is one thing that I think many people are reticent about in testing pricing is the sense that, oh, Drew got $38 and Aaron got $40 and we'll talk about it. Forget using Intelligems, any tips for a brand, just like low hanging fruit for somebody who's trying to figure out how to do price testing in a way that doesn't create a lot of risk, but actually gets you the insights you need?
Yeah. The first thing to remember is no one thinks about you, your brand, your product as much as you do. And like, we've honestly been shocked at how rarely that sort of thing comes up. And you equip your customer support team with, hey, I can honor the lower price. And like, most people are just like, oh, I got something cheaper, I'll take it. Because you can't be perfect in the implementation. If you really want to de-risk it, or if you're like smaller, just change it and see what happens. Like I think there's the Amazon two-way doors versus one-way doors. Like one-way doors, you can't come back from this decision. You better think really hard. And people think of pricing as a one-way door. And in some businesses it is, but like you can just try changing it. It's one field in Shopify, publish it, let it roll out and change it back in an hour or in a day. And honestly, I think that's the biggest thing. Like you can change everything over, see how the data converts. It won't be scientific. We could go deeper into that, but it will like break that seal of the world's not going to fall down. And like, you'll get a couple customers reaching out, but you'll have a sense of how your conversion rate changed, how things reacted.
Thank you. So you guys started not as a feature. I don't mean this in a bad way, but it was like, hey, look, we're going to go figure this out. And then
we will help you A/B test a price of a product and a variant.
And then you even just talked through it, which was fascinating to me because I ran a brand for 7 years. I did not think about it this way, but literally each one of these different options on the site is truly a pricing discovery mechanism. It is all in service of getting a conversion. And if you are thinking strategically as a brand, it is a profitable conversion.
Yeah.
not just about a single time, but long-term customer value, yada, yada, right? How do you guys think about, look, we could be empire building? Because when you say personalization, I'm like, it's not just Aaron gets a 15% discount and Drew gets gift with purchase and Aaron gets free shipping and Drew, whatever. It also could be personalization on like Aaron gets a lifestyle image on my email and Drew gets a
Yep.
How do you think as you're building, and you guys have like scaled amazingly, you've got amazing customers, you've fundraised, like you've hit all the boxes, at least from the outside, that a startup wants to hit, right? And you've earned the right to build a lot. How do you make the decision what you guys are doing yourselves and what you're doing, given that you said Shopify, you're in an ecosystem with so many players and agencies and Shopify itself and Klaviyo itself. Where do you guys want to like truly say, hey, look, we are building a unified experience?
It's a great question. I mean, we are talking about that every day. And I think there's definitely been times where we've built too much. And it's like, whoa, we are releasing at an amazing clip, but these aren't cohesive. How do we explain it to a customer in a way that they're going to know what to come to us for? And, we kind of we know that we want to be the best place to test this stuff. And we want to be able to answer any question the brand comes to us. And so, okay, being able to test a volume discount, it turns out that's quite hard given how the front end widgets connect to checkout. How do we automate that? How do we target that? That is something we need to build ourselves. Like we have quantity buttons. You can set up volume discounts and gift with purchases for us. And like, that's a suite we had to build in order to answer the question. So that is really like, that's thing one. If we are going to be the best testing platform and the best like way to get data on your business, we've got to build the tools to do that. Step two, the other thing we think about is just like what's closest to the money. Like our number one value as a company is like make impact for customers, which to me is make incremental profit. So I'd rather go build personalization, upsells, and testing thereof at checkout, where I can show really quickly whether we are generating incremental value for the brand and incremental profit. We'll get maybe someday to personalization of the imagery and it links through the email segment on site. But for me to go show you that there's ROI there, it's going to be like a 3-month, 6-test multi-step process. And so, that like makes it hard to retain people. It makes it hard to keep people along. And, the third thing related to that is just what can I make significantly easier for customers to do? Like, I think we're a complicated, powerful, robust tool, which is great, but we're also trying to make sure we don't lose track of like effort should be low to get value from this. So are there places where effort's really high and people are currently doing something and we can just like abstractable, like price testing, some people were doing themselves, but they had like a full-time developer supporting it. So I don't know. I don't think we have like the cleanest approach on that yet. It's something we are working on, but those are some of the criteria we look at.
No, I think it's good. I mean, it's very clear what's at the core of the business. And also just from like, our limited interactions, it's very obvious to me that you guys are like customer first, right? There are some companies where you're building something because you're like, hey, this is cool and this is needed and let's go.
Yeah.
The flip side is you see a problem, you fix it. And at some point, to your point, maybe you overbuild and you're like, oh, we didn't fix it well enough and there are other people who can do it. And so I think that is like, it's a hard dance. Candidly, it's a dance that we are navigating right now. And so it's very,
I know. Like we
founder to founder.
We have this feature, site-wide analytics. And it's like, we looked and we were like, hey, we're collecting every single page view session, all the data about it, every add to cart, change cart, start checkout, add credit card, ship this, like the entire buying journey instrumented and measured. And we can track custom events. And we heard enough customers complaining about GA4. We're like, well, we could just like surface all this to you. Right now, we only show you these slices for tests. And it's a really powerful part of the platform, but like most people probably don't know it's in there. Like, cause we need to do a better job of like, how do we link that to the actions you can take and the way you can use that to drive profit. It's just like, you're always managing this. I want to add complexity that creates value to retain people better as a SaaS founder, but I also need to keep it simple enough where people know what to come to me for.
I do want to pull on that retention thread, right? Because like, we're hiring for sales right now. And in the job description, I'm like, look, if you would close a deal that will turn in 6 months, don't apply for the job, right? Because it's not about hitting your number. It's about retaining. And so, I'm interpreting what you're saying is like build a delightful customer experience, create enough value that they stick around. When you are thinking about that, forget from the like SaaS side, but you've seen so many brands and how they run. How do the best brands think about their customer retention? Like, yes, you want to be as profitable as possible on a purchase, but you also want to be as profitable as possible on a long-term
Yeah.
journey. What are the best brands thinking about? What are some trade-offs? What are some tips if you have for anybody?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is every single discussion they have that we are privy to, LTV is part of that. Like their data may not be perfect,
Mm,
but they have an assumption about how much a customer is worth. And the best ones, okay, now we've got more granular. What channel was this customer from? Does that change the LTV assumption? A really powerful one is like, what product did they buy into? Different first product purchases are going to have very different LTVs. And they kind of have that as a book value. Like no one needs to go run that analysis each time because they know as a company, someone who buys this subscription is worth this much to us. And
mhm,
so when they run a test, when they're talking about a new ad channel, when they are like analyzing different segments, that's just like their default thing. And honestly,
mm,
we don't support it that well in our dashboard
mm.
yet. So that's we hear about it. We're like, they're like, okay, great. I took all of your data out and then I added my assumption. Then here's my dashboard back to you. Can you guys build this for us? And so
Drew, you can't be perfect at everything, man. You
I
guys
know,
are
yeah, that's
pretty
despite
good enough.
my desires. But yeah, it's just like they
Yeah.
don't analyze data unless there's an LTV number attached to it.
I love it. All right. I want to think about like the last couple years. You started in 2021, right? So like you started after kind of the COVID boom, but then obviously there
Hmm.
was a bust. And I'll share my journey was like profitable growth actually growth at all costs is a thing, and then it
Yep.
became cost cutting, and now it's kind of shifted towards profitable growth. So I'm starting to see inches of brands where like we just need to grow again.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing on the retention one, I'm starting to see some like negative being willing to go unprofitable on the first
Sure.
order if they believe the LTV, which I've not seen for like the last 3 years.
For a while. So it's changed. One of the things that you talk about is like CRO isn't enough anymore, right? And so like there have been so many changes in the e-commerce ecosystem. How do you see like the world shifting? How should brands like again, you have the experience from
Yeah.
Intelligent, but how should brands be like thinking about running their business? Has that shifted at all?
Yeah. I mean, I think the shift to profitable growth has been the big one the last couple of years. And I think that the very conservative approach has been the right one for the last couple of years, where like we will literally not fulfill a first order unless it's profitable. I
Mhm.
mean, you're going to fulfill what people buy, but we're going to like look at orders, cut unprofitable ones, kill unprofitable products, increase our shipping thresholds, like anything to hit that first order profitability. I mean, people have been willing to play with price and shipping thresholds in a way that they really weren't back in 2021. They're like, things are
Mhm.
great. Why would I touch it? What I'm seeing from the best brands we work with is they are willing to flex on those a bit. Like they actually have a good sense of the nuanced economics of the business. Like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm confident in my prediction of LTV based off past cohorts. I am willing to put a certain offer in a certain channel and wait for that payback because I know that that's going to be profitable. I
Mhm.
am willing to give a certain offer to certain segments on email or on text because I have enough data going back that like I'm confident it's profitable. So it's kind of like batter the hatches, gather data for a couple years, and now people are like, great, I can flex this. I have a reasonable model of my business and of the different customers. Those people also tend to like, I mean, I think when we started, it was very much like we're doing price testing and CRO is over here. Like we're
Mhm.
going to change the layout and the button color and all that stuff. And then you had like the ads folks doing landing pages, which is kind of a combination of both because there's an offer in there. But like all of these things didn't talk to each other. And when we would go into a brand, it's like, oh, who set the price in? Well, the CEO. Who's in charge of the shipping threshold? Oh, well, the fulfillment team. Oh, who's in charge of the discounts? Well, that's like the paid media. And these 12 things that touch price all were solved locally or like guessed at locally. And so what I think needs to start happening, we're seeing it with some brands is like that is handled holistically. Like you cannot make a decision around price separate from a decision around shipping. Should not be changing the layout of your landing page without understanding the offer and how it impacts that. And so I think like a little bit more of this growthy with confidence is where we're going to go, if that makes sense. I'm rambling a bit here,
This is great. I mean, I think
but
I think
yeah,
part of what you're like, what I'm also hearing is even because you mentioned the ad side of things, you need to think about the actual LTV, not just like that first conversion, and
yeah,
figure out what sources are good. and what leads which customers down what pathway. Like it's truly that end-to-end
Yeah.
customer
And then figure
journey.
out, okay, you got them for the first time. How do you improve that LTV?
Yeah.
How do you ensure that you go and hit that prediction you had?
All right. So I'm running a brand, 10, 20, $30 million brand. It's like a real company. And I'm listening to this. I'm like, great, we should do some testing. What are the mistakes that people make if they do like surface level testing instead of really thinking about like kind of the end-to-end experience?
Yeah. I think you need to be willing to dedicate time to it. Like that is
Mm.
like the number one mistake I see is like, oh, I'm going to give this to the very junior marketing associate on my team. And what you'll end up with is like redesigns of your landing pages and redesigns of your PDPs. And that's great. Like those, you can stack those together. You should have someone focusing on that. That's certainly better than being like, I'm going to run one test and go away, but you're kind of playing with your business model as is. Our take to that executive is like, well, think about beyond the page. Like, where are you stuck in your scaling mode right now? Is it you're not selling through inventory fast enough? Is it you are getting crushed on shipping fees? Is it that you need to drive higher LTV and you're introducing a subscription product to do that? Do you have new product development coming and you actually need to introduce your customers to a second product line? So, it's like, let's start from the business model and business goals and what assumptions are holding you back there. Is
Mm.
it the assumption that you need free shipping or you can introduce people, cross-sell a different product? How do we go test that and validate that and break those barriers? And that's where the founder or the VP or the exec is going to be the one who has that level of context and the pull to go change it. It's like, well, okay, great. Let's go try a pretty significant change in the customer journey that does cross-sell and hit it again at checkout. Let's play around with the offer, the imagery, and the value proposition on this landing page for your paid ads to see if we can drive subscription that retains. We could test increasing the subscription discount, but if that just gets a bunch of people to cancel, that's not good. And so, your testing roadmap is as good as your hypotheses.
I love that.
And the bigger your hypotheses are about how your business can break free, the bigger the potential impact of the roadmap is going to be. So we often talk about it as two-speed testing. Yes, do the basics, be constantly running, be stacking the wins. It pays off. It's incremental, but also these big strategic questions. I think people think they need to solve it on slides and spreadsheets. It's you can actually go get information from your customers in the real world by testing it.
When we do proper testing, we partner with you guys and we do it. It's February right now, right? And we get
Yep.
some really big insights and we change things in April. When do we need to retest those things? Is it, well, actually holiday might be completely nuts, so we should do this, we should do it annually? Again, your point about hypotheses hits me so hard. It's great. You
Yeah.
can you could theoretically do anything, but you know your business well. What do you want to test? When you figure out the big ones, do you stop and move on to the next one? Or do you just keep hammering the big ones and you keep refining and refining?
If you have enough traffic, you run it 2-track, you do both. It depends on what you're testing. Price, my ideal would be that everyone tests price quarterly because most of these businesses have a seasonality impact. Your
Mm.
COGS are changing, which is going to change the assumptions, and your competitors are out there changing. It's very much not a fixed, there's no such thing as a right price. It's the right price for your strategy at the right time. Things like core layout, PDP, collection pages, you don't need to go find the funnels that drive most of your sales where there's opportunity, focus your efforts there. That you should always have
Mhm.
something running on. But if this format of PDP is getting 2% of traffic, don't go spend your team's time
Mm.
beating the head on that. And then where I push people on getting granular is, okay, we found out that our shipping threshold for should go from 100 to 150. And that's worth testing quarterly because your AOV often shifts with seasonality, and that's going to be very tied to what the right shipping threshold is because you raise the shipping threshold, you lose some conversion, but you increase AOV for people who, like me, hate to pay shipping. Great. So we could test that over and over. What you should try to get to is, well, which segments of customers have different preferences here? It may be that as I go dig into that data, which I'm now collecting a lot, it's profitable for me to surprise new customers with free shipping at checkout. They've made it that far. They displayed intent. I can keep a pretty high LTV prediction. It's still the best option to have a threshold for returning visitors, or it could be people coming from, my email list, who are first time customers, we should be much more aggressive about displaying the offer on the site after they land than we should otherwise. And so having these like hypotheses about which segments may prefer different offers, like that's your way of banking gains as you go. So it's like, okay, we found the right macro solution, the right global solution, but there's almost then this arbitrage of like which offers should go to which segments. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit better from this chunk of traffic. You start stacking those up and like, I mean, you start to have it's a little scary, but start to have an experience that feels dynamic.
That's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
to your point about personalization, and I definitely want to come back to that, but maybe a rudimentary question. When you're inspecting a brand and you're thinking about segments, right? And you could go 1,000 different ways. You could like go get like personal data and figure out by age, by
Yep.
geography. You could look at like first time buyers versus multi time people who bought a certain product. What is, again, if you're thinking about segments and testing segments, and again, your mid-market brand like Shopify Plus doing pretty well. What are likely the biggest bang for the buck places to start if you're going to think about segmenting?
Yep. New versus returning. Like that's the cleanest one. And then within new, where are they coming from? For some people, it's just one big channel, but in other cases, you have like a couple different ones that tend to have different flavors of value propositions. So that's like the one.
Meaning, sorry, just to be clear, like it could be like, hey, look, TikTok shop buyers are one and done. Don't worry about it. Versus like somebody comes in through your email letter or something. Something. Is that
Yep.
fair?
Your like blog affiliate, pose, wire
Right.
cutter, whatever it may be. So that is
Mm,
always one. That's
mm,
like the one really universal one. Mobile versus desktop, like most people are on top of that. There's maybe some UX changes. It tends to be a little bit less about offers, but like that's relevant for everyone too. Mobile dominates. From there, it's just like what I put back to the brand leaders, and they usually have a good hypothesis once I pull the mirror up. It's just like, well, why do people come to your site? And it's like, oh, well, I have people who buy gifts and I have people who are buying for themselves. Well, I have people with induction cooktops and I have people with gas cooktops. Just like what is the highest level difference in intent
mm.
that someone comes to your site with?
Yes.
That's the important question. From there, we can figure out the targeting, right? Like if it's, like Original Grain is one of our big customers and they mainly sell to men, but 40% of their traffic is women buying for their partner, brother, husband. So it's like, okay, that gifting versus buying for myself use case is very high level. And it's going to change how we communicate the pages and the copy and maybe
Mhm.
which products we put first. All right, what's the best way to solve for that? Probably gender. Can we get a hold of gender? And that's like, then what data do we have becomes a secondary question. Perhaps we collect that in a quiz and then we have drive traffic through the different Klaviyo emails, and then we definitely know who someone is. Perhaps we look at their first click and we like make a guess based off that behavior. Jambies is like another brand. They sell unisex apparel. So
Mhm.
gender there could be very powerful. Not for changing the price or anything, but just like what models should I show? Which
Sure.
product should I show first? Based off what I know about the past. So
Well, I
there's
think
not
what
like a
you're
one size fits all segment, but it's often like we don't need to make it massively complicated.
Oh, look, I mean, look, what I'm hearing from you is obviously like you were clear about like new versus returning, cool. But the other piece actually is like, what do you know instinctually about your business?
Yeah.
Right. So if you know that you have like you're bifurcated by like people who buy like adult clothing versus children's clothing, cool. Like go maybe set up an on-site quiz, do anything possible, or like look at the data of a purchase and then like test around that. It's not one size fits all. It is actually
Yeah.
going much more personal.
And then we can
Can
go
you?
hunt that data point, right? It's like, okay,
Mm,
can we figure out if this person has kids? And like, there's increasingly tools out there that do give you a sense of demographic data. But it's much easier to go, hey, can I get this one piece of information somewhere along the funnel instead of can I know everything about everyone? Because then you're just like stuck in data gathering and segmentation hell, and you like are trying to solve this thing bottom up that you should use your top down intuition for.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that is very clear is like, especially in this ecosystem, there's unlimited data, but like,
Yeah.
it's not the data that matters; it's the information, and it's like limited time, limited resources. Where's the biggest bang for the buck? What are the fires I'm going to let burn? I think that is a challenge for everybody. I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but one of my big assumptions is actually getting the mindset of experimentation is like a massive shift that most of your customers probably need to take? Like maybe they dip their toe in and they use you guys for part, but like I imagine the best performing brands are like, hey, look, their data driven culture and experimentation is like in the blood of the company. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. Every decision for those folks is like, do we have data on it?
So
Okay.
how
No,
how do
can we
you
get
guys
data
help?
on it?
Yeah, how do you help get a brand there? Or for like the person who's listening who's like a CRM manager or like the VP of Ecom and she's stuck because the CEO is not thinking this way and they're like, no, 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 I have good taste. Let me just like decide what
Yeah.
happens. Yeah, how do you kind of help build that culture at a company?
So an exercise I love to do is I pull up a PDP, usually on desktop. So it's not exactly the customer experience. And I'm like, who owns this? Who owns this? Who made this decision? Who made this decision? And often it's different people. And it's like, okay, how do we know which of those was good? Like how, let's say you change free shipping tomorrow. How would you decide on that? So step one is like, oh, let's make this cohesive. It doesn't mean you need to change an org structure, but at least recognize that like these teams need to be talking. Second piece is then let's build a roadmap. And like if I pull open an Intelligems dashboard and I see that there are drafted tests not ready to launch, and I see that there's a clear naming convention, this date, this is what we're testing, this is that, I know that they are a successful brand with us. Just
Mm,
because it shows they have built a practice, they like have someone thinking about this, they have things queued up and ready to go, so they're not going to waste time. And the naming convention implies they're like organized with their hypotheses and proving
mm,
it. Road mapping is key. And we like help folks do that if they're getting started. And third is recognizing that it is a practice. You're not going to get winners every time. A very funny failure case, which like is it's wrong, but it's also human nature. Is like someone runs a test and it loses. It's their first one, and then they're like, okay, I'm done with testing. It's like I know, but think about it this way: like you just saved yourself a mistake. It may not show as green numbers that you found an improvement, but great. Now you have information, log that. That'll inform your future decisions better. Go launch another one. And so it's kind of like, can you have this roadmap and then actually be committed to running it for a certain amount of time where like you will find the winner? And after 3 months, almost everyone has found something that's a winner. But it's like having that steadfastness in this is going to be an investment that's worth
mm.
it, but like I have to commit.
I really appreciate the insight of the like when something doesn't work, that action might be as valuable. You've probably saved a lot of time and a lot of other experimentation, or like the
Yeah.
CEO at some point is like, yeah, I think we should offer free shipping. You're like, hey, look, I already tested this. We should not like let's not spend another minute here. And instead of there being a long committee meeting or like a lot of thrash, you actually get to knock off as many things as possible. Is
Yeah.
can be as valuable as figuring out the thing that moves something up a small percentage.
Or like I hear from people, they take a demo with us and they're like, yeah, we like made this price change like 4 months ago and we thought it was fine. And that now things are like all seem screwy. So we want to figure out if we like made a mistake. And it's like, oh yeah, well we could have tested it 4 months ago, but let's go figure it out now.
Hmm. I kind of want to give you a softball and create some space for this because like you've just been given a lot of tips and it's really helpful, right? But like, can you talk about just like an awesome case study with Intelligems where and like try to tease out the like, yeah, this is cool and we get to brag about it, but this is the things that we learned or like that other brands should be taking from it.
Yeah. Wow, man. I always get nervous with softball. Like,
Brand X, a very large brand that rhymes with Nike.
yeah, my dream customer. I mean, a large brand that sells wallets and other things like has worked with us for quite a long time
Mm,
and have like driven a lot of product development. And I think I love the way that their usage of us has evolved, where initially they came in, it was price testing, and it was actually price testing on like a new adjacent product line. So like relatively low stakes. We're launching this product, kind of massive spread of pricing in the market. And so they came in and they just took like a huge swing. Like I think there was like a 200% difference between the lowest price they were testing and the highest. Not a ton of traffic. It was a new product, but enough to like directionally say, all right, this is where we should position this in the market. From there, got into price testing on some of the core products. And there it's much more granular. You know, we have a lot of traffic. We have a big catalog. Let's try a dollar here, a dollar there, see where we have some extra elasticity, like a lot of different variants. So which materials, which colorways actually have like more willingness to pay. They may cost the same. I actually don't know the cogs, but like which do customers value? And they've been very clever with how to maximize both the initial AOV and LTV through like selling different products. And they have done just so much testing around upsells and cross sells and add-ons. So like anytime, I mean, it's been 3 years right now, but what add-ons should we show on the PDP? What other products should we choose as variants? How do we actually like merchandise this on collection pages? A incredible amount of testing on the cart about what we can do to drive extra items in that cart, drive higher AOV. They're using like our features on the checkout page to add things there. And so it has just been this like incredibly rigorous, always multiple things running. And then what I love is this past year, they were like, hey, the free gift upsell we should offer should be different depending on, now they have like multiple successful product lines. Is this a customer who comes for product A? Okay, what's the journey we want to give them on site to get to product B? Is it product B? What's the journey we give them on site to get to product line C? And so they are like using information about where someone is coming from. So they'll use like UTM parameters from Klaviyo, pass that to the session to then change what offer and what UX is shown. They're doing those as holdback tests to go like figure out what the uplift is. They're using site-wide analytics to go understand where they have drop-offs in the funnels. And like, what I love about that is they're using the product in ways that I didn't really think, I never thought to use, but they're threading together all these different tools. And like, I'm not going to sit here and like ultimately we help them measure and implement their ideas, but they have just found so much incremental improvement from their tests, but they've also like really successfully executed on this multi-product line strategy. And I feel like they tested that multiple steps of the way with pretty big swings to the conversation we were having earlier.
I mean, but as a founder, that's what you want because they're building your product roadmap for you. So
no, exactly. And now we're like, our big goal now is like, hey, let's just give APIs, MCP server, people can like Claude code the shit out of whatever they want. Like all of our great best product ideas have come from people hacking the products. So now it's like, if everyone's a technologist and a builder, how can we just externalize as much stuff as possible and let you go nuts in terms of what you build on top of our data and our tooling?
One of the discussions we have internally is that our product isn't just our product. Our product is like our product and our people. So we are like, our biggest team is our customer success org. And like you want to scale over time and yada, yada, but it's like, actually, we want to handhold folks through. It is like all things being equal, Read is a very simple product. Like I say, a Rita 101 is a 30-minute call. Rita 201 is like maybe an hour more, but like we can go deeper as needed. How do you think about where your team fits? Because like you have this brand that's pulling you forward. And you just mentioned MCP and everything. But I also imagine there's like 5 or 10% of your customers who have the capacity and the bandwidth and they know what they're doing. And then there's 60 or 70% who like are never going to touch this stuff. And then maybe like there's 20 or 30% in the middle who are like your mid, something like that. How do you think about like, this is less about like giving tips to a brand person, but more a technology vendor or like a partner in the ecosystem? Like where does your team start and stop with everything you're launching?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that's happened by accident, but has been tremendously helpful is there's a huge network of agency partners who effectively have become part of our team, where they do CRO or they do web design and development. They do paid media, hoping for more like retention agencies. And they found us through whatever means because they need to test their own work and they have the time to focus and they need to prove their value. And they liked what they got with the tool and we could support them. And they bring on their other clients. They use other clients. They bring us on. And that has been like a third of our business comes through those folks. And it's, if I look at our accounts that retain the best, that get the most value, they work with agencies who, our goal then is not to tell the agencies what to do, but to educate them, give them access to the tools. And like, they are unsurprisingly the biggest users of these APIs. And like today, someone was like, oh, look at this Slack bot I made that monitors what's happening on the site and creates alerts. And it's like, amazing. Great. Now let's go market that to more people who can go use it. So that's been a very fortunate, happy accident. We've always had a onshore support and success team and like spend a higher percent of revenue than I think benchmarks because testing can be complicated. And like early on, we were like, there's no way to get a tool to work perfectly when there's this many moving pieces. Like we are literally moving pieces of the site, creating stuff out of thin air. So rather than try to like solve that all, let's just have people who can like work really closely with our customers and be problem solvers and not just like document readers. So we've found great folks from inside the ecosystem, outside the ecosystem. And like, I think that's been super helpful. What we're investing in now is a lot more into onboarding. So like, great. I don't know if you found this, but we've had this pendulum every couple of years of like, we should just do everything for customers. And then we're doing too much and maybe making mistakes. And then we're like, we need to like lead a horse to water and just like educate. And right now we're swinging more towards the let's do more with people, but like teams have gotten leaner. We're hearing from a lot of brands like, I don't have the resources for this. Can you just give me the value? And we're focusing a lot on what we're calling like while you sleep value use cases, where it's like, what's some stuff we can set up early in the life cycle, be it easy test wins, easy personalizations that just like, they're going to be creating value while you sleep. Like you don't need to worry about it. Upsell at checkout. It's going to make you money. And it kind of relieves the stress of the customer of like, I got to get ROI from this right away. It's like, we'll just do this for you. And what a really helpful maxim we just started is like, what are things that we can set up with the customer on a call? Like no homework for us, no homework for you. Hey, we can take your abandoned cart flows and make it so that people who click through get a highly personalized experience on the site. It's 5% of traffic, not a huge amount, but we see that it has like a 10% conversion uplift, a 8% profit uplift. We could set that up in 20 minutes and it is now just like live. So we're trying to front load more of it, I guess is like where I'm getting.
It's great.
And have this like control this pendulum of do it for you versus educate you by just like, what can we educate? And then if we're going to do stuff, let's just do it on a call.
It also feels like a big piece of this is like your customer base has changed. Like they have fewer people, which everybody is seeing.
Yeah.
You are also talking about like shortening time to value. It doesn't need to be time to like excellence and like best in class and everything. Candidly, like your product, it will take 3 or 6 months to like run through the more complex.
You gotta wait for the test results.
That's right. But you can go drive some value. I do want to double click quickly on the agency thing. 60% of our business comes from agencies, and it is a very, very explicit choice.
Yep.
I think I'm seeing a lot of companies pop up or pivot in this ecosystem where they're agentic and they are, hey, you don't need an agency. We've got the data. We can do it. And I'm like, any company coming from the outside, forget strategy and creative and like, this is the next gen, literally not understanding demand planning and like, do they have a lot of product to move or not? And not having access to that, which like a third party software that's doing personalization or something, right? Or like journeys, whatever you want to call it, but doesn't actually know the day in the life of the brand is just going to like make short-term optimizations and tank the brand. And so we specifically built to be like, we do one thing, we do it extremely well. And that's like, we work in Klaviyo and we work with agencies, or if you don't have an agency, cool. Your strategy, your creative, we'll lend a hand. We'll just give you segments. And it's like, it's hard because then we look like we're doing something small, but we're like, if the segments perform better, you make a bunch more money. And so there is that trade-off. But I do deeply appreciate that you guys have stumbled into this, as you put it. Amazing agencies like grease the wheels for everything. They will make the brand better in ways that you could not possibly do as a tech provider.
And they give the far and away the best product feedback.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good, yeah. We'll talk about this offline. We're rolling out some pretty cool stuff right now. And like literally on our call that I just rolled off, it is very explicitly around like, how do we go get immediate feedback from 10 of our top agencies like this week? So yeah, I'm with you. Maybe no, go ahead. Please.
Just to triple click then on the agency front. What you said on the agentic stuff, it's like, yeah, okay, great. We can replace the $10,000 bill on your line item, but like, it doesn't have context. And we're like, well, why don't we just build the tools for agencies so they can operate way more efficiently and like serve more people with the human context and knowledge that's needed? We think that has a much higher odds of success than like some bot that gets dropped into your Slack with you.
True. There are certain things where I feel like I'm yelling into the wind, but I'm like, most companies that are agentic are definitely not agentic. There's no agent. It is like a decision tree, or it is like I can't even. Anyway, I don't want to get angry at the end of this discussion. All right, last quick one, because I know we're almost at time. You mentioned in passing like MCPs, but also like marketing, and like I think you guys now have an integration with Klaviyo. A lot of we obviously work extremely closely with them. What are the things that you guys are building related to kind of like the CRM stack or like the marketing stack or the retention stack?
Yeah, I think we'll go back to the goal. How do we like make commerce intelligent and drive extra profit per visitor? We can use tests to find these global maximum, but as we've gestured at a lot, like, different customers are going to prefer different things. And there's all the agentic commerce hype, and will just agents be buying everything? Maybe at some point for some things, for a lot of things. But like what's going to happen first is the site and the storefront is going to get a lot more dynamic thanks to better ability to segment, to generate, dynamic. So the first step there is rule-based personalizations. Like, what can I build that will speak better to different segments of customers? And that can be different copy, a different offer, different shipping threshold, kind of anything. And everyone's talked about one-to-one personalization forever. And like, no one actually does it. I mean, maybe you see it, but like for all the hype, I've yet to meet a brand that manages any program of like significance. It's usually like, oh, we like give recommendations with an API, but like nothing in the site experience is changing. We're really excited about this idea of like, we call it congruency or rhyming, but like, where is someone coming from and what is the thing that has drawn them in? Be it the ad, be it an email, be it a text. And how do we make that congruent with the experience they then get on the site? Like, if you offer someone a discount in an email, why would you not plaster the shit out of that offer once they land on the site and mark all the prices down and actually have it auto apply and show the prices post discount? Like, you're giving something away, be vocal about it. If someone clicked through about a certain collection, match that collection. And everyone knows that, but it's really, really hard, I think, to like execute that because you're dealing with different versions of your site. And so, where does most of your best information live about customers? Well, for most brands in Klaviyo, like that's your CRM, it's your CDP. So we just launched like ability to target by segment there. So you can very easily say, hey, if someone is in this segment in Klaviyo, change this offer, change this experience. And we're kind of making it easier to stand up those changes so that you don't need to like go create it from scratch every time. I think enriching that for like landing pages and paid, and hey, what ads are people coming from and how do you then match the experience in a more like automated way? That's something we're working on. And kind of like, I don't think the ideation is the challenge here. It's managing the complexity and reducing the effort. And that's where, hey, agents and AI can be very helpful. Let us propose to you what copy should change. Let us draw up a different version of the page that you can approve or change. And we can make it traceable and, all that stuff. But so that like Klaviyo targeting is the first step of many towards just making it easier to like scale up a personalized approach. And then, every time we test that, we see that rhyming increases conversion rate, tends to increase average order value. That usually is going to drive more profit. So that, and then, we're releasing a lot more APIs to create tests and personalizations automatically and then gather the data out. So we're seeing some cool stuff with people just like building unique flows. Like, hey, every time I launch an ad, I'm going to go launch a test on it about what the landing page is. So it's all kind of coming together, hopefully, over the next few months.
Drew, this is awesome. You are, I very much enjoyed following you from afar. I had to like go back through some old emails where like, I know we know some people from childhood, and I had multiple VCs ask me about you guys when you were starting. And like, you're like one of those companies that I've not been close to, but been able to watch and just admire. This was such a delight. I also like, based on some of the stuff you talked about at the end, we finally have a chance to partner together.
I know. It's good
I
time.
will follow up. I'll tell you a little more about what we're doing on the segmentation side, but this rhymes with it, which is like, we aren't the experts at that. You are, the brand is. And so, yeah, this is very cool. All right. We got a minute left. So where can folks find you, find Intelligems? And if there's any last thing you wanted to say or double click on, please do. If not, you've given an hour worth of insight, so you're allowed to just drop.
People can find me. I'm Drew Marconi. I'm Drew at Intelligems.io. So follow me on LinkedIn. We publish stuff there and like do a weekly newsletter about not actually the product, but about just like how people should think about testing and personalization and speculate about the future of how this is going to look. We post a lot on Twitter as well. And Intelligems.io if people want to check out the product. Yeah, I'll shout out Zach Roskam at the end here, our mutual friend and my beach volleyball teammate.
I think in my heart he still goes by Zachy, no matter how much of an adult he
Zachy,
is.
he's now a magnate of coffee in the New Jersey, Philadelphia
I
areas.
know, my second saddest missed investment opportunity, but
I
so it
I
goes.
didn't even get a chance. I wish I invested.
Drew, thank you. This was such a delight. Appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
thanks, Aaron. Appreciate having me on.
Hi, I'm Aaron Schwartz, co-founder and co-CEO of Arita.ai. We build AI customer segmentation for some of Klaviyo's biggest brands like Oriana, Spanx, Caraway, Third Love, True Classic, Run Beauty, and on and on. Brands come to us to help find untapped revenue, improve their click rate, drive away mean bots, and a bunch more. You can learn more or get a free customer engagement audit at Arita.ai.